Imagine a regular penal colony under strict regime, barracks, inspections, the same daily schedule. And then a new inmate arrives in transit. They do not place him in the common cell. They lead him off on his own. A rumor spreads instantly. Cannibal. In prison, rumors move faster than radio. Some whisper he ate a neighbor from his building. Others say he survived in the tiger. Some do not believe it. Some cross themselves. But everyone understands one thing. People like that are not wanted on the inside. What exactly happens to them, though? Very few truly know. Today, no embellishment. Real accounts, stories from former inmates, and how so-called cannibals live and survive in Russian prisons. Who cannibals are in prison slang. Behind bars, everything runs on words. One word can save you, another can bury you. Out in the free world, rumors are just gossip, but inside, a word becomes a verdict, especially when the word is cannibal. In everyday life, the label means someone who did something horrific, ate human flesh. Inside, it is not so straightforward. The tag can stick without hard proof and without a courtroom finding. Sometimes it starts as a whisper. There are no journalists here, no defense attorneys. There are rumors that lead a life of their own. In the slang, cannibal can be slapped on someone who committed a crime with extreme cruelty. For example, if he killed without reason, tormented a victim, or did something beyond ordinary comprehension. And there are cases where someone was actually convicted for taking that step in starvation or madness. Then the tag is not a metaphor, but a fact. For most inmates, the difference hardly matters. They do not read case files. A single rumor, he ate people, is enough. After that, doors shut. Every camp, every colony has its unwritten rules. One of the main ones, respect the order. Cannibalism is beyond any idea of order. Even the most hardened criminals treat it as filth, something that cannot be excused by circumstance or insanity. In the hierarchy, such people are not just at the bottom, they are beyond it. No one shares a table. No one shakes hands. No one smokes from the same pack. Any touch is a disgrace. Everything connected to him becomes dirty. Some inmates even avoid looking their way. They say, evil travels through the eyes. Superstition? Maybe. But behind bars, where every day is the same, little things become important. People search for any explanation for fear. And the fear of someone who crossed the final line is a special kind. Sometimes the cannibal label does not match reality at all. A newcomer arrives with a sealed case. His file is restricted. No one knows why he is in. Imagination fills the gap. If he keeps silent, he must be hiding something terrible. If he acts strangely, the tag appears. There is no way to wash it off. Prison runs on reputation. You can be quiet or rude, smart or simple. But the main thing is who rumors say you are. If the rumors are against you, you are losing. Especially if they include the word cannibal. For many inmates, that is worse than any crime. There is an invisible line. You can steal, you can even kill, but you cannot stop being human. A cannibal is treated as no longer human. He is the one who crossed the border where everything human ends. In the closed world, where everyone is divided into ours and others, such a person will never be accepted. Sometimes a newcomer does not even realize the label is on him. He wonders why no one speaks to him, why they avoid him. Soon it becomes clear one look is enough. Everyone in the barracks already knows who he is, by legend. Arguing is pointless. There were cases where, after hearing a cannibal arrived, inmates filed requests demanding he be moved to another barracks. The administration understood. This is not a whim. Leave him there, and a conflict could flare up, even a riot. So they often isolate such people immediately, not out of pity, but out of pragmatism, to prevent something worse. Inside this system, there is no forgiveness. Explanations will not help. You can say he was not in his right mind, that he was surviving, that it was not out of malice. No one listens to such excuses inside. Here, it is simple. You did it, face it, even if 10 years have passed. That is how a special attitude forms, a mix of fear, disgust, and contempt. With that tag, a person can pass through the entire colony without speaking human to human with anyone. He lives among people, but as if in another world. His very existence reminds everyone else that there is a line you must not cross. Transit is the most dangerous moment. Anyone who has been through prison knows. The scariest part is not the trial and not the colony. The scariest part is transit. It is not just a road from point A to point B. It is a tiny world with its own rules, and over a few days, a person's fate can be decided, especially if a bad reputation trails behind him. Transit means a chain of way stations, train cars, prison vans, holding cells, and waiting. They move inmates in groups, sometimes 20 or 30 at a time. It is cramped, hot, loud. People are nervous. They do not know where they will end up. Among them might be the cannibal. Even if no one officially says who he is, the rumor still finds a way. Sometimes it starts right at the way station. A staffer blurts something out. Someone overhears. Someone glimpses a document. One person whispers to another, and within a couple of hours, the whole car knows. There are no secrets here. Once truth or half-truth gets out, the mood shifts. No one wants to ride next to him or sit near him. Tension settles in the air. In a prison van or holding cell, space is tiny. You cannot leave. You cannot turn away. You cannot pretend you are not there. If a rumor targets someone, he becomes a mark. No one has to say a word. 2 glances are enough to know he is not welcome. Staff know this, so if they learn someone with a dirty article is going through, they try to isolate him from the rest. Sometimes he rides in a separate compartment or with a different category of inmates to avoid conflict, but that is not always possible. Transit is chaos, rush, mix-ups, not enough space. One mistake and the consequences can be unpredictable. Sometimes it ends quietly. People figure out who is riding with them and freeze him out. No touching, no talking, just pretend the air in that corner does not exist. That is the better outcome, because the other one is worse. 2 or 3 decide to check what kind of person he is, and the talk quickly leaves the realm of words. It can be over before the van reaches the colony gates. Officially, inmate conflict. Unofficially, a silent settling of scores no one will report. Inmates say, transit is like a court without a judge. Laws do not decide here, moods and rumors do. If someone by legend ate people, there will be no discussion. He will not get to explain or deny. No one listens. Everyone has already made up their mind. In their eyes, he is beyond the pale. So, administrations act carefully. They may avoid naming the article directly. They write, especially dangerous recidivist, or restricted contact article. That can help avoid panic. But even then, someone often finds out through connections. Rumors move through colonies and pre-trial centers faster than phone calls. Learned in one town today, known at the next stop tomorrow. In that gap between court and colony, a person goes through perhaps the hardest time. He does not know where he will land, which cell, what regime. If he realizes the mark is on him, he expects a blow every minute. He does not sleep, eat, or talk. Some even ask to be isolated. They write that they fear for their life. They may be moved to a single cell or a separate car. Even there, the anxiety does not fade. Transit tests endurance and sanity. It is hard even for ordinary inmates, uncertainty, crowding, constant searches. For someone riding under the cannibal mark, each meter is a minefield. He does not know who sits beside him, what they have heard, what they might decide. Any move could be the last. Sometimes after transit, such people go straight to isolation, not the general quarantine, to prevent a conflict from even starting. First they check who he is, what his article is, and only then decide where to place him. It sounds harsh, but there is no other way. In prison, the scariest force is not the administration. It is a crowd that decides someone is unclean. Former inmates say, if you have that kind of article, ask to travel separately. It is not cowardice, it is survival. Because in transit, there are no rules, no cameras, no witnesses. Everything gets decided quickly and for good. Quarantine, a test of survival. When transit ends, it feels like the worst is over. In fact, it is just beginning. The colony gates slam, the escort leaves, and the inmate is taken to the place that decides his future quarantine. Quarantine is not isolation in the usual sense. It is a temporary zone where all newcomers go. They are checked, processed, issued clothing, told the rules. For inmates, quarantine is a trial. For those with a heavy or notorious article, it is a real survival test. Everyone passes through this filter. First, a medical check, then forms and questions. A psychologist, a duty officer, an operative all ask their own things. Who are you? Where from? What for? Any enemies? Any problems at the last place? It may sound formal, but it is recon. The administration wants to know if you are bringing trouble with you. If the article is dirty, for example, against children, or cannibalism placement follows special rules. Operatives try not to release such a person into the general barracks. They understand he will not last. Usually he is kept in a separate room while they decide where to put him. Sometimes staff come and ask plainly, "Do you understand what will happen if you go to the general unit?" Most do. They nod in silence. Even if the administration wants to protect him, it is not easy. Quarantine already has an activist group, trusted inmates, who help keep order. They are the first to learn who arrived, for what, and from where. If the info leaks, the whispering begins. In quarantine, rumors spread like wildfire. Sometimes the activists keep it calm, keep the newcomer separate, limit contact. Other times, they are harsher. "We will not have this here." Then the administration has to step in, move the person to isolation or a separate building, officially for safety, unofficially to head off trouble. For the inmate, quarantine is stress. He knows no one and does not know whom to trust. Every glance feels suspicious. Every word has a subtext. If someone greets him, he wonders why. If they do not, it means they already know. A few days of that constant fear can drain you more than months of investigation. Former inmates say the first 3 days are the hardest, not because of cold or hunger, but because the unknown crushes you. You do not yet know which barracks you will get, who will be there, how they will meet you. With a bad reputation, you wake each morning with one thought: will I make it to evening? Some, especially with dirty articles, try to show submission. No arguments, no showing off, willing to do anything. They want no extra attention. That too can backfire. Sometimes the quiet ones are suspected more than the bold. If he is silent, he must be hiding something. There are unspoken tests in quarantine. They may call the newcomer to talk and ask him to say what he is in for. You must be extremely careful. If you lie, they will check the database and trust drops to 0. Tell the truth, and it is dirty. That is trouble too. So people balance between truth and silence. Some say, my article is under investigation secrecy. It raises questions but buys time. Operatives act from experience. Let things slide and you deal with consequences later. So at the slightest sign of danger, they either keep such people in quarantine longer than usual or send them to a cell-type unit. For others, that is punishment. For them, protection. Even if nothing happened, quarantine leaves a mark. What is said or done in those days gets remembered. Any word can resurface later in the unit. If anyone at any time says he is a cannibal, that word follows him through the colony. Some former staff say quarantine reveals the psychology of fear. People convicted of heavy crimes suddenly fear someone rumored to have done the unthinkable. It is a mirror no one wants to face. So they push away, despise, keep distance, not because they are saints, but because they do not want to look at the edge. For the administration, quarantine sorts people and preserves order. For inmates, it sets their status. For those seen as cannibals, it is a quiet trial without a judgment. If he gets through it alive and without incident, he was lucky. What comes next will not be easier, but at least it is clearer. The prison hierarchy versus a cannibal. Any prison is more than walls and bars. It is a separate world, with its rules, codes, understandings, and hierarchy. You feel it everywhere. Who sits with whom, who sleeps on which bunk, who may speak, and who must keep quiet. This system is harsher than any official regime. Everything is assigned from the respected to the lowest. And even at the bottom, there are those below the bottom. A cannibal belongs there. To understand why, you need the ladder. At the top are the thieves-in-law, the criminal aristocracy. Below are the men, ordinary inmates without status, who live honestly by prison standards. They work, keep calm, do not meddle. Lower still are the untouchables, the ostracized, those excluded from normal contact. No one sits with them, speaks to them, or touches their belongings. Even among them, there is a special category, those not recognized at all. That is where a cannibal is placed. Prison morality is a paradox. There are killers, robbers, repeat offenders, yet they hold a concept of the line. You can steal, even kill, but you cannot stop being human. Someone who ate others is, in most eyes, no longer human, even if not out of malice, even if exceptional circumstances, still taboo. To inmates, it violates nature itself. When someone with that article appears, the reaction is instant. There are no announcements. Everyone finds out within hours. Someone saw a document. Someone heard from staff. Someone heard on transit. The silent filter flips on. Who is he? From where? What did he do? If cannibal is confirmed, the status is fixed forever. There are no meetings or interrogations. People simply stop acknowledging him. No conversation, no food shared, no touching his things. A silent banishment. He can be in the same barracks, yet be outside society. Sometimes he is moved to the corner for the ostracized, sometimes kept apart. Any interaction with him is a stain. Even an accidental touch is bad. Former inmates say that in some colonies, a cannibal ranks below the ostracized. He cannot even bathe in the same room. He gets separate dishes, a separate bunk, a separate wash basin. Not to mock him, but to guard purity as the code defines it. The prison world runs on symbols. The unclean must not touch the clean. A cannibal is absolute unclean. Paradoxically, even staff can be wary. They must uphold the law, yet they minimize contact. Searches and checks are quick and wordless, not out of fear of attack, but because the very fact repels them. He is a stain no one wants to touch. Inmates say simply, he is not long for this world. Not a threat, a statement. He will not last unless the administration shields him. Even if no one lays a hand on him, the psychological pressure is crushing. Silence all around, contempt, the sense of being a non-person. Some cannot take it and ask for solitary just to escape the looks. There are rare exceptions. If someone with a foul article stays calm, works, and avoids conflict, over years, people may stop paying attention. But the status remains. They do not touch him, but they do not accept him. He is an outsider forever. Inside, what you did matters, and how you carry yourself. Some try to defend themselves. I was framed. I was delirious. Words mean little in prison. People believe rumors, not explanations. If the rumor says cannibal, that is that. A brand that does not wash off. There is no room for pity in this hierarchy. No one cares about diagnoses or hardships. Only the fact. The final line was crossed. If you did what others will not even imagine, you are out of the human category. The system reacts sharply, not from malice, but from fear. Accepting him means justifying him. No one wants to stand next to someone who shattered the idea of being human. The prison structure is like a body. Something foreign appears, the body rejects it. So it is with cannibals. They are isolated less by force than by instinct. No one wants unclean nearby. The rule works without orders, without guards. It enforces itself. Thus, an invisible boundary forms. It is written nowhere, but everyone feels it. You cannot cross it. You can live years, behave perfectly, help others, the mark stays. You are not part of the community. You are a shadow. That is how prison works. It forgives a lot, but not everything. Cannibalism is one of the things it never forgives. Isolation is the only chance. When a colony learns an inmate carries a heavy article, the administration has just one option: isolate him. Not out of mercy, not out of kindness, but to keep order. Inside, everything is fragile. A small imbalance can spark a conflict you cannot put out. For a cannibal, isolation is not punishment, but a way to stay alive. The sooner he is separated, the better his chances of making it to release. It sounds harsh, but that is reality. Usually they move such inmates to a cell-type unit. It is nearly solitary, but with a special regime. A small cell, concrete walls, a narrow window under the ceiling, table, bunk, basin. No cellmates, no chatter, no movement. Silence that rings in your ears. Sometimes a cough from the next cell. Sometimes a guard's steps behind the wall. Nothing more. For most people, that would be torment. For those with no chance among others, it is salvation. They ask to be left alone. Sometimes in writing, sometimes telling the duty officer, better a cell than the common unit. They do not need to explain much. Isolation solves several problems. First, it prevents conflict. Second, it lets the administration keep full control. Such inmates are under special supervision. Cameras, frequent rounds, reports. No work duties, no group activities, no shared yard time. Every step gets logged. It is not a privilege. It is protection, disguised as a strict regime. Life in such cells moves slowly. Time does not pass. It drags. Day mirrors day. Wake up, count, meal, a short walk in a caged yard, and back to silence. Some start talking to themselves, writing letters no one reads, counting steps from door to wall and back. It is hard on the mind, but there is no choice. Either solitude or risk not making it to morning. Sometimes they move such inmates to a special holding area. Still isolation, but slightly softer. Reading, writing, sometimes supervised TV. No contact with others. It is a world within a world, its own air, walls, and endless quiet. Staff are often wary. Even if the person is calm, they avoid provoking him. Conversations are purely procedural. Searches are quick, without chatter. Some officers admit, not fear of assault, psychological strain. The person opposite is not like the rest. Even if he speaks politely, tension hangs in the air. Isolation turns anyone into a shadow. You lose your sense of time and of life beyond the walls. But you gain something else: survival instinct. They learn to live inside themselves, save energy, break the day into tiny parts. They do not expect visitors or understanding. The main thing is that the door opens in the morning, meaning he is still alive. Sometimes the administration tries to return such inmates to a general unit, say, after many years and a calm environment. 9 times out of 10, within days, he is isolated again. Not because someone attacked, but because others start to tense up. One look, a single whisper, and the atmosphere shifts. The colony runs on balance. A single, unclean figure can upset it. Over time, some develop a strange respect for the regime. They obey every rule. Do not argue. Do not complain. They want to be invisible. The quieter they are, the fewer chances anyone remembers who they are. Still, somewhere in a file, there is a note. Especially dangerous, potential for aggression, article cannibalism. As long as that paper exists, the general unit is closed forever. Isolation seems cruel at first glance. Seen from another angle, it is the only way to preserve life. Life without contact and without a future, but life. On the outside, such a person might live in solitude for years and get used to it. Inside, solitude becomes safety. Where rumors and hierarchy rule, isolation is the only chance to remain human, at least by the letter of the law. A psychiatric hospital instead of the colony. Not everyone charged in cannibalism-related cases ends up in a colony. Some never make it there. The court finds them insane and orders compulsory treatment in a special psychiatric hospital. From the outside, it sounds almost mild. Medical measures. Those who have been there say otherwise. A psych hospital, instead of prison, is not leniency, it is a different kind of confinement. In some ways, even heavier than a strict regime colony. These hospitals are closed institutions under guard. The same bars, the same fences with wire, only white coats instead of uniforms. Patients are not called inmates, but the order is the same. Inspections, rounds, rules. The only difference is orderlies instead of escorts, and doctors instead of wardens. Their power is no less. They decide when you get up and go to bed, when you may take a walk, and when you go to a windowless room. Many think getting sent there is easier than prison. Treatment is not punishment, they say. That is an illusion. In a colony, you can at least talk, read, see other people. In the psych hospital, everything is under lock, and every day feels like a dream you cannot wake from. People circle like machines. The air smells of medicine and bleach. No conversations, no emotions. Just soft footsteps and the steady hum of ventilation. It is not only cannibals who end up there, but anyone judged to have committed extreme violence while insane. They are not sentenced in the usual sense. They are given a diagnosis. That diagnosis can last for years. Every 6 months, a commission decides whether release is possible. In practice, it rarely is. Doctors write, the condition remains dangerous. So the person stays indefinitely, effectively life. Wards rarely hold more than 4 people. Windows barred, doors locked, morning rounds, injections, pills, then breakfast, and silence. A TV might be on, barely audible. Orderlies watch for raised voices, arguments, any emotion, any deviation call the doctor. Disobedience is punished not by a punishment cell, but by an injection that switches you off for a day. Some say this atmosphere is worse than a colony. In prison, you know who is beside you and what the rules are. Here, everyone is not themselves, in their own way. Someone laughs for no reason, someone whispers prayers, someone taps the wall all night. Sleep breaks at every sound. You are always on edge. Staff avoid discussing cases. For doctors, it is a diagnosis, not a story. Yet tension shows between the lines. A doctor knows the person in front might be capable of extremes. It is hard to treat him like an ordinary patient. So a cold, taut quiet reigns. No shouts, no emotions, no pity. Unlike the regimented colony day, here everything is viscous and slow. You never know what tomorrow brings. A walk today, heightened supervision tomorrow. A commission allows a lighter ward this week, then sends you back next week. There is no logic. That breaks you more than isolation. Former staff admit some patients do not speak for years. They sit on a bed, staring at a single point. Sometimes they ask for a newspaper and do not read it. They no longer care. Their world shrank to 4 walls. For some, it is punishment. For others, refuge. After what they did, they would not survive a normal colony. Here, at least, no one touches them. Not with words, not with hands. But life there is not life. It is endless waiting, where days lose meaning. Memories fade. People forget their age and the date. Some even forget why they are inside. When a doctor says, "You are almost well," they do not rejoice. There is nowhere to go. The colony would not accept them. On the outside, no one is waiting. In essence, for such people, the psych hospital is a quiet life sentence. No verdict, no hope. No one beats them or screams or humiliates them. But the essential thing is taken the feeling of being a person. Without that, Walls are unnecessary. You are isolated forever, even from yourself. The inmate's reaction: fear and disgust. People in a colony live side by side for years. You know who sleeps where, who is in for what, who is from which city. When a newcomer shows up, attention spikes. Everyone watches how he moves, how he talks, what he says. If it turns out the article is cannibalism, everything freezes. Not just curiosity, an unmistakable mix of fear and disgust. Everyone knows the value of rumor. No trial is needed, one word is enough. When that word is cannibal, the person is cut off from everyone. Even the calm ones keep their distance. No one sits near him, meets his eyes, or starts a conversation. In this culture, he is not just a criminal. He is something beyond. Sometimes the reaction is almost silent. No shouting, no threats, just emptiness around him. He may live in a barracks with 20 people and feel utterly alone. He does not share meals or cigarettes. No one takes his things. Even a simple hello can draw looks. Why did you talk to him? Inmates explain it simply. Some codes cannot be broken. A lot can be forgiven, even killing if it was over something or in a fight. But some acts trigger a visceral disgust. Cannibalism is one of them. For most, it is not even moral debate. It is physical, like fear of filth or disease, a gut feeling you cannot logic away. Whispers float around the barracks. One says to another, "He is the one, I think." The other pretends not to hear. Then the talk repeats in another corner. Within hours, everyone knows. The longer he keeps quiet, the tighter the tension winds. Silence here feels like admission. If you do not deny, it must be true. Sometimes the reaction turns aggressive. Not necessarily physical. 2 lines are enough to show he does not belong here. They might openly ignore him, make it clear he has no place. Not because they crave violence, but because his presence breaks the balance. There is a concept of purity in prison culture. It is not about hygiene, it is about the inner order. If you are dirty, you cannot sit with others, eat with them, or even stand next to them. To them, a cannibal is dirt in the purest sense, not metaphorically, literally. Many will not touch objects he touched. Dishes get thrown out, clothes washed separately, sometimes even burned. On the administration level, everything may look calm. Staff act as if things are under control, as if no codes exist. They still know one rumor and the situation slips away. So they try not to mix such people with others, not out of compassion, but because the consequences are unpredictable. For inmates, a cannibal nearby is a psychological stressor. Even the most cynical start thinking, prison is a place where life and death sit side by side daily. Killing is one thing. A person who crossed the human line is another. He is a reminder that those behind bars are capable of anything. No one wants to stare into that mirror. There is another layer: fear of contagion. It sounds odd, but prison is full of superstition. Some believe you can catch evil from him, that even sleeping in the same room brings blackness. There is no logic, but logic does not rule here. Fears handed down through generations do. Sometimes someone tries to be humane. He is still a person, and he suffers, they say. They are shut down quickly. Even talking to him puts you at risk. Others may decide you are on his side, that you are defending someone unclean. That is dangerous. One wrong step, and you may end up beside him, not because of the administration. Paradoxically, Many released inmates later remember not him, but that feeling, fear and disgust, not at the person, but at how the whole colony turns into a single organism that expels the alien. There are no deals, no commands. Everyone just feels the same. That feeling is stronger than any law. Vigilante justice, quiet and quick. Many things are forbidden inside. Some things are never written in reports, but everyone knows they exist. One of them is vigilante justice. It is not codified, not discussed aloud, but remains part of prison life. When someone arrives with a terrifying article, especially cannibalism, the air changes instantly. No need for words or threats. Everyone senses that this person does not belong here. Sometimes it ends quietly. No shouting, no show. One morning the door opens and the person lies still. Officially, heart failure, asphyxiation, personal conflict. Unofficially, vigilante justice. The reasons are simple. There is an invisible law inside. Some crimes are unforgivable. If someone did what others deem inhuman, he has no right to be among them. It is an instinct to remove, erase, restore balance. These decisions are not taken in meetings. There are no votes or sentences. It happens on its own. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 senior inmates to exchange a look. Everyone else understands. Other times, vigilante justice is not a beating, but ongoing pressure. The person becomes invisible. No food, no water shared, no place to sit, no words. No one can endure that existence. Some ask to be moved to a punishment cell or solitary. For them, that is a way to survive, even at the price of total loneliness. The administration usually knows when tension is rising. They cannot prove anything. No one files complaints. No one speaks outright. Silence rules because everyone accepts some matters are settled by the code without interference. Interfering can spark a blaze no one can put out. Former staff admit, in some cases, the leadership quietly aids the isolation of such inmates. Better to move in time than deal with fallout. If someone with a dirty article is suddenly moved to another building, it is no accident. Someone up the chain realized he cannot stay among others. Ex-inmates say the barracks need one spark, a stray phrase, a look, a memory that this person crossed the line. Then it is over fast, without extra words. After a minute's silence, then routine. As if nothing happened. No one boasts about this. No stories on the yard. No pride. It is not a feat or heroism. It is like cleansing the system of what it cannot bear. Everyone knows it is illegal, but few discuss morality. Where formal law fails, other laws operate. Harsh, but understood by all. Sometimes vigilante justice takes another form. Not physical, but banishment. They move the person to a worse cell, give him the foulest work, set conditions he cannot endure. That, too, is punishment. Quiet, bloodless, no easier to bear. Often, more frightening. Administrations need the appearance of order. They file reports, run checks, and almost never name things plainly. Accident, fall, conflict. These phrases repeat for years, and everyone knows what lies behind them. On the outside, someone may ask, why do staff not intervene? Because they cannot. The colony is an organism with its own laws. It lives by understandings stronger than instructions. If something disrupts its balance, the body treats itself. No courts, no protocols, no traces. Vigilante justice is not revenge. It is the prison's way to preserve its internal rules. Terrible, yet to those living inside, it feels natural. If someone suddenly disappears, no one is surprised. Everyone just acts as if nothing happened. Life under constant control. If a cannibal survives the initial turmoil, no vigilante justice, no open conflict, no psych hospital, another reality begins. Life under constant control. Not just a strict regime minute by minute, eyes through bars, steps behind you, cameras, logbooks, reports, patrols, no hint of private space. Such inmates live separately, usually in small sections with 1 or 2 people at most. Any cellmate is chosen with great care, quiet, non-conflict, rule-bound. Often, there is no one else at all. The risk is too high. If someone remembers who is next to him, it can be over in minutes. Every step is scheduled. Wake up by command. Wash on a schedule. Walk strictly supervised. Counts several times a day. Everything is logged. Every word can reach a report. Any deviation becomes a write-up. The administration watches such inmates not only to protect others, but to protect them. Any small thing can trigger alarm. If he lingers in the bathroom, if he is slow to answer roll call, if he is silent longer than usual, alert. For ordinary inmates, it seems excessive. For him, it becomes normal. This lasts for years. Some grow used to the control. It fades into the background, like the hum of ventilation. They stop noticing cameras and footfalls. They obey in silence and with no emotion. In their eyes, fatigue, not fear. More like acceptance. There is no other option. Everyone knows where that one is housed. No one says it aloud. It is a tacit topic to avoid. Even newcomers get hints. Do not go into that wing. Special ones are there. That is enough. Special is not just a word. Their cells are stripped down. No sharp objects, no glass mirrors, even books with soft covers. Letters pass through triple checks. Envelopes are opened on receipt. Parcels are opened in front of him, but he is not allowed to handle them freely. Spoons can be plastic. Safety is not a measure. It is a lifestyle. Some find in guards their only conversational partners. Brief, formal exchanges, but still contact. A simple question like, "How are you feeling?" becomes an event. It sounds small, but after years in 4 walls, any word from outside reminds you the world still exists. Other inmates rarely enter those cells. Even cleaning is done by staff, always on camera. Every sound recorded, every gesture noted. If he stares out the window longer than usual, it gets marked. The system would rather overreact than miss something. Former staff say people in this position become like shadows. They do not argue, complain, or demand. They drift on inertia. The main rule is not to violate anything. Any slip can mean punishment, a return to a harsher cell with even less air and light. So most stay quiet. Even so, they never feel safe. They live under a glass dome. A change of shift or a new batch of inmates is a risk. One look, one rumor, and everything can repeat. No one forgets the article, even after 10 years. Rumors do not age behind bars. Sometimes quiet phrases follow them. Not threats, just whispers. There he is, the one. They pretend not to hear. They must not react. Any word can start a conflict. They just keep moving. Step, door, count. Step, door. Day after day, year after year. Life under constant control is not just a routine. It is a slow erasure of identity. You stop being yourself and become an object under observation. Everything you do is no longer yours. It is a checkbox in a schedule. The longer it lasts, the less of a person remains. The system does not forgive those who broke its unwritten rules. So even if a cannibal stays alive, he does not live like others. He exists like a fish in an aquarium. Everyone sees him move. No one sees what is inside. Inside silence and the knowledge that the control will never end. Rare exceptions. There are no miracles in prison, but sometimes there are exceptions. Rarely, almost never, but still. Sometimes a man with the worst article not only survives, but manages to fit, in some small way, into prison life. It looks strange even to those who have seen a lot. Yet every system has cracks, and sometimes something human seeps through. It happens when the person is quiet, non-confrontational, without bravado. He does not explain, defend, or tell his story. He just does what is required, and does not bother anyone. He works, follows the rules, does not mouth off, does not complain. After a few months, people get used to him. They do not accept him, do not befriend him, but they do not touch him. He becomes like furniture. He is simply there. Inmates are observant. They can tell lies from silence. If someone behaves steadily and calmly, interest fades over time. Even if someone whispers about his article, others wave it off. Old story. At some point, people stop talking about him, not because they forgot, because they are tired of remembering. Time helps. Prison changes slowly, but does change. Some leave, others arrive. Work crews, wardens and operatives rotate. If someone serves a long stretch, a decade or more, the people around him are completely different. They do not know details or rumors. To them, he is just the old-timer. The past disappears not through forgiveness, but because memory exits with each generation. Some find tasks in isolation sewing, gluing, repairs. Someone becomes a skilled hand, fixes boots, repairs locks, carves small figures from wood. Work keeps you alive and gives meaning. It also makes you useful. And useful people are not touched. If you can do what others need, you are seen less as a threat and more as a tool. Not respected, but tolerated. Sometimes a staff member treats such an inmate humanely. Not as a friend or protector, just recognizing he is quiet and cooperative. He may get calmer work and a bit more movement. Still under control, but with a little air. That does not mean trust. It means everyone is tired of constant tension. Keeping someone at a breaking point for years makes a break more likely. If he breaks, everyone is to blame. Among inmates, there are also a few who can see past rumors. Usually older men who have seen it all. They can say, "Enough. Let him live quietly." Not because they believe in redemption, but because they know the cost of despair. They have seen the most dangerous man turn, after years, into a quiet shadow with no anger and no will left. Then the attitude shifts from hate to indifference. In prison, indifference is almost forgiveness. Even so, full acceptance never comes. No matter how he behaves or helps, someone will always say, "He is not like us." A shadow that never leaves. You can live with it, not shed it. He feels it too. Even if people greet him or give him work, he knows one mistake, and it all comes back. The looks, the whispers, the contempt. Those who remember such cases speak calmly. He was odd, but quiet, they say. No details. There is no drama or catastrophe, only weariness. Prison smooths sharp edges. Even fear turns into habit, and habit into indifference. That is how these exceptions live. No friends, no trust, but no constant threat either. They sit, work, grow old. When release comes, they leave quietly, without farewells. No one walks them out. No one asks where they will go. They just vanish beyond the gate. Only those who knew the truth understand that even after serving the time, the past will never let them go. On the outside, there is no future for them, but at least inside, they found stability. Cold, joyless, but stability all the same. Against what would have awaited them in a common barracks, it really does look like a miracle. Why they are feared, even after release. As the end of a sentence nears, most inmates start counting days. Some notch the wall. Some divide the calendar into months. Freedom is the goal that makes everything bearable. For those marked as cannibals, it is different. Even when the door opens, real freedom does not begin. Outside, they face another trial. Other people's eyes. Prison can be cruel, but it is predictable. You know who you are, where you stand, what to expect. Outside is fog, colder than bars. People fear such men, more than those who shared a barracks with them. Not fear of attack, fear of the fact itself. A person did something beyond comprehension. Almost all of them hit the same wall after release. No one wants to deal with them. Not neighbors, not employers, not even relatives. Rumors spread quickly. If someone remembers the article, doors close. Renting a place is impossible. Finding work is too. Not because everyone is cruel, but because people do not know how to treat them, what to say, what to leave unsaid, whether you can even look them in the eyes. Former colony staff say that before release, such people sometimes get a talk. Advice: do not seek extra contact, keep calm, do not provoke, formally safety briefing. In reality, an admission that no one awaits them anywhere. Most have no papers, housing, or family. Years of isolation erase the past. He steps out and sees a world that has moved on. New buildings, new people, different ways. Worst of all, he cannot explain who he is. Telling the truth shocks everyone. Lies never last. One mention of his name, and everything comes out. Sometimes journalists or curious neighbors take an interest. They write, film, ask questions. That is curiosity, not care. People want to see a monster, not a human being. He has nothing to defend himself with. No words, no reputation, no right to be forgotten. He did it, so it sticks forever. Even after 20 years, even if he fears his own shadow now. Many return to silence. They live on the edge of town, avoid people and shops. They go out at night to meet no one. For them, loneliness is not punishment, but refuge. At least there are no eyes. Some try to start anew, change their name and move far away. They cannot outrun the past completely. Any check, any database query, and the mark resurfaces. Then it starts again. Distrust, distance, fear. At such times, they begin to fear people themselves. Fear being recognized, fear being asked. A circle with no exit. Former psychologists say many develop chronic guilt and hypervigilance. They live as if in someone's sights. Even alone, they feel watched. Any sound alarms, any question triggers suspicion. They drift away from everything alive. They cannot trust. They cannot belong. They are strangers to others and to themselves. Sometimes they end up back behind bars, not because they reoffend, but because they cannot cope outside. Prison is familiar, clear, stable. No need to explain who you are. Everyone knows, and oddly, there is a peace in that. Outside is chaos, inside is order, however harsh. Some return on purpose. They break a law just to go back to where things are clear. Even inside, they are different now. They inspire no fear and no hatred, more often pity. It is obvious. The person has lived without a future for a long time. He simply exists, between walls, between worlds, and neither world accepts him. Cannibalism is not just a horrific act. It is a brand that turns a person into a symbol. That symbol does not wash off with time or remorse. Even if he is quiet, old, harmless, to others, he remains the man from the case file. Nothing else matters. That is why they are feared even after their term. Not because people expect a new crime, but because standing near them makes everyone feel the fragility of the line between normal life and the abyss, between a person and what he once became. That fear is stronger than any bar. Prison does not forgive. Prison is a strange place. It can teach you to endure, force you to survive, strip away what makes you human, and it does one thing flawlessly. It does not forgive. Not mistakes, not weakness, not even sincere remorse. Nothing is recorded only on paper. It is recorded in people's memory. Every act becomes part of your reputation. In prison, reputation is worth more than life. A cannibal inside is not just a criminal. He is someone who stepped across a line everyone else tries not to think about. Even killers and repeat offenders who have seen blood, they cannot accept the one who crossed beyond the human. Accepting him would mean the line does not exist. Without that line, there is no order, neither legal nor by the code. So a system built on fear and hierarchy pushes such people out. It isolates, hides, forgets. The longer it goes on, the stronger the conviction grows. Some people cannot be forgiven. From the outside, it looks different. A man living in solitary for years has become his own judge. He lives without hope, without contact, without a future. He does not justify himself or argue. He simply exists like a shadow. Prison does not kill him physically, but burns out everything that made him human. Maybe that is the real reckoning. The world behind bars does not do forgiveness. There is no second chance or path to reform. Any act becomes a brand. The worse the act, the deeper it burns in. The system does not care why you did it. It sees only the fact. That fact becomes your new name. Who you were no longer matters. Who you are in others' eyes does. Even those who tried to understand step back in the end. Prison hardens not only inmates, but those who work with them. Operatives, guards, medics. They grow cold because there is no other way. If you start to pity, if you try to see a human being, the system squeezes you out. So no one pities, neither the guilty nor the unlucky. Sometimes it seems the colony lives by an old law. Everything must be paid for. Officially or not, if the court handed down time, the colony adds its own. If the court was silent, the colony has the last word. For cannibals, that word is always isolation. 10 years, 20 years does not matter. They remain untouchable while they live. In that world, forgiveness does not exist. Even if a person truly regrets, no one needs that behind bars. Outside, someone might forgive. In a church, someone might bless. Inside, the rule is simpler. People like that are not forgiven. No one argues, not because they are cruel, but because that is the order of things. Break that order, and the system breaks. Former inmates rarely use the word fear here. They say, balance. If you stop punishing those beyond the line, everything else loses meaning. There is a logic to that. Harsh, but functional. The colony preserves itself by expelling what it cannot comprehend. It all sounds savage, but to those who live inside, it is ordinary reality. Without it, prison would not be prison. No one looks for truth there. They just make sure order does not collapse. They sacrifice everything for that. Fairness, compassion, hope. A cannibal in a colony is not merely a man with a heavy article. He is a reminder to everyone that the human in a human can vanish. Perhaps that is why the system does not forgive. Forgive one such person, and it risks seeing itself in the mirror. In the quiet among walls and bars, one law does not change. Prison does not forget and does not forgive. It lives on memory. As long as that memory endures, anyone who once crossed the line will remain on the far side forever.